In this lesson, we are going to look at calculating averages and the range from frequency tables. We will recap one way in which this has been done in a lesson prior to the Christmas holidays, and we will be moving on to looking at a new type of calculation in this lesson and practicing this as well. So the first thing we're going to do is recap something that we did in the very last lesson on this topic, which was the concept of calculating averages and the range using data that is represented in a frequency table. Make sure that you have the date written in your books. And we're going to start by looking at the data in this table. You will need to quickly copy this table into your notes. So pause the video for as long as you need in order to be able to do this. Now, the data in the table represents the number of pieces of fruit eaten by a group of 30 students in a day. So we've got some questions to answer underneath it, which we can see here, starting with part 1. How many people ate 4 pieces of fruit? So we're looking for where the number of pieces of fruit is equal to 4, which is here, and the frequency for that is 6. So that tells us that 6 people ate 4 pieces of fruit. Question number 2, what is the modal number of pieces of fruit? So what is the most commonly eaten number of pieces of fruit in a day? So which has the highest frequency? The highest frequency we can see is 8 over here, which corresponds to 2 pieces of fruit. So 2 is the mode. Now, what is the median number of pieces of fruit? So we know that the total frequency is 30. So the median value is the 30 plus 1 divided by 2 value. So that is the 15.5th value, which means that the median is in between the 15th and the 16th value. So halfway between the 15th and the 16th value. So if we total up the frequencies, we can get to the 15th value and then the 16th value. So I'm going to keep a running total of the frequencies here. So 4 plus 7 is 11, and then 11 plus 8 gives me 19, which tells me that the 11th value is 1. So the 12th, 13th, 14th, all the way up to the 19th value are all 2, which means the 15th value and the 16th value must both be 2, which tells me that the median number of pieces of fruit is 2. Now, part 4, we've got to calculate the mean number of pieces of fruit, something we did last term. And you will notice again, there is a blank column here for us to make use of, and that is for the number of pieces of fruit, which I'll call x, multiplied by the frequency, which I'll call f, so fx. So there were 4 people who ate 0 pieces of fruit, so that's 0 pieces of fruit overall. Now there's then 7 people who ate 1 piece of fruit each, so that's 7 pieces of fruit. 8 people ate 2 pieces of fruit, so 16 pieces of fruit. So we multiply the frequency by the number of pieces of fruit. So we've got 6, we've got 24, we've got 15. And then we need to find the total of the fx column, which gives us the total number of pieces of fruit consumed in the day. So this total comes to 68. And then the mean is equal to the total number of pieces of fruit, 68, divided by the total frequency of 30, because what we're doing is we're working out the average number of pieces of fruit eaten per person. So we want to do the total number of pieces of fruit, 68, divided by the total number of people, which is 30. So that's 2.26 recurring. And I'm going to round that to 2.3 pieces of fruit to 1 decimal place. Now, thinking again why we don't round that to the nearest whole number, it's misleading. We want to show that the average number of pieces of fruit was in between 2 and 3. It wasn't exactly 2, it wasn't exactly 3, it was somewhere in between. Now, what is the range of the number of pieces of fruit? Well, the maximum number eaten 5, the minimum number eaten 0, so the range is equal to 5 take away 0, which is equal to 5. So this is a very quick recap of something that we covered in the work we did on averages last term. We're now going to move this on to some new content. So make sure you have the correct heading in your exercise books, which is calculating averages and the range from a grouped frequency table. So the data in the table shows the time taken to complete a task by 50 people within a group. Now, the times have been grouped. So if you look at the 3 here, which is the first value of frequency given, that's 3 people who took between 0 and 10 minutes to complete the task. Over here, later on, we have 24 people. They took between 40 and 45 minutes to complete the task. And you can see the time intervals are not necessarily of the same length. Some of the time intervals are 10 minutes, 0 to 10, 10 to 20. Some are, well, one of them is 20 minutes, 20 to 40. And then we have 40 to 45, which is a 5-minute interval. And then finally 45 to 60, which is a 15-minute interval. Time intervals don't have to be of exactly the same length. Now, we are going to calculate some averages using the data in this table. So you must make sure you have the table copied out, and you need these 2 blank columns as well. We'll be using those as part of our calculations, or to help us with our calculations. So pause the video for as long as you need in order to get the tables copied out. So first question that we can ask ourselves, what is the modal group? So how do we calculate the modal group? We look for the group that contains the highest frequency. So the group that has the highest frequency is 24, and that corresponds to the group 40 to 45 minutes. So we can clearly answer the modal group is 40 to 45 minutes. Now, we can't specify which value is the exact mode. We don't have that information. The data has been grouped. So, which group contains the median time? So, we know that the median value is going to be the 50 plus 1 divided by 2th value. So that is the 25.5th value, which tells us that the median is in between the 25th and the 26th value. So again, I can add up the frequencies, which allows me to work out where the 25th value and where the 26th value will exist. So if we do this, we've got 3 here, 3 plus 10, 13, 13 plus 7, 20, and then immediately when we add the next frequency, that takes us up to 44. So that tells us that the 20th value can only go as high as 40. Which means that the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th value are all in the next group. So we have a median group, which is again the group that's 40 to 45 minutes. So again, we don't specify an individual median, we just find a median group. Now, Part 3 requires us to calculate the mean. And you'll notice here that what we're doing is we're working out an estimate for the mean. Now, why is this an estimate? It is an estimate for the mean because we don't know the individual values of t. And so we're going to estimate them because the data has actually been grouped. Now, this is what these 2 blank columns are going to be used for. The first blank column is going to allow us to identify one value within each group which is going to be representative of all the values in that group. So for example, in the first group, I know that there are 3 values. There's a frequency of 3. So 3 people took between 0 and 10 minutes to complete the task. Now, I don't know the times taken by those 3 people. It could have been 3 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9.5 minutes. I don't know those individual values. So how do I choose one value to represent the whole group? I choose the midpoint of that group. So we're going to give this blank column a heading of midpoint. Now, what's the midpoint of 0 to 10? Well, what's halfway between 0 and 10? It's 5. So we're going to assume that all 3 people in that group took a time of 5 minutes. And let's find the midpoint of the other groups as well. So the next group, 10 to 20, the midpoint of 10 to 20 is simply 15. The midpoint of 20 to 40 is 30. The midpoint of 40 to 45 is 42.5. And then the midpoint of 45 to 60, now if you're not sure about calculating a midpoint, the simplest way of doing it is to add together the 2 endpoints and then halve the result. So we add together 45 and 60 and we halve that result, which is 52.5. Now we're going to blank out this cell here because we don't need to add together the midpoints. That wouldn't make any sense. Now, going back to something I said earlier, we're now pretending that all 3 of the people in this first group took a time of 5 minutes. So what would be the total time for those people? It would be 3 lots of 5, it would be 15. The same with the next group, the 10 to 20 group. We're assuming that all 10 of the people in that group took the middle time of 15 minutes. So that would be 10 multiplied by 15, so 150 minutes for those 10 people in total. So we are taking the frequency f and we are multiplying by the midpoint, which I will call x, so f times x, or fx for short. And we do the same with each of the following groups. So 7 times 30, 210, 24 multiplied by 42.5, which gives us 1020, and then finally 6 multiplied by 52.5, which gives us 315. Now, our mean is then going to be equal to the total of this column here, which is the total time. So that's the total time. Well, it's an estimate for the total time. Why is it an estimate? Because we didn't know the individual times taken by each person, we used the midpoints for the group instead. Now, if I add together all of these values in the final column, that comes to a total of 1,710. So my mean is then going to be 1,710 divided by the total number of people. That's really important that we do that calculation correctly. We don't divide by the number of groups, we divide by the total number of people. So that's 1,710 divided by 50. So if I input that in my calculator, that will give me a mean time of 34.2 minutes. Now, why is my answer only an estimate for the mean? It's only an estimate because we did not know the individual times of each of the 50 people involved. We had to use the midpoint of the groups in which their times fell as an estimate for their time. And that means this mean value is only an estimated mean, not an exact mean. We would need to know each time for each of the 50 people in order to get the exact value for the mean. Now, the last part of this problem, is it possible to work out a range for the time taken? Well, we can estimate the range by thinking about the largest possible time, which was 60 for the highest group there, and subtract from that the theoretical smallest possible time, which was 0. So that would give us an estimate for the range, which would be equal to 60. Again, an estimate. We don't know that anybody took 60 minutes. We don't know that anyone took 0 minutes, but that's all we can do. Make sure that you are comfortable with your understanding of how we have estimated the mean from this grouped frequency table and how we've identified a modal group and a group containing the median as well. You are now going to do some practice questions on this particular skill using your exercise books and an accompanying worksheet which has been uploaded to Teams.